In the distant reaches of the Cygnus Arm, the Karathi Dominion ruled with unquestioned power. Their control over the stars came from one major advantage: their sensor technology. No ship could hide from them. No vessel could sneak past their borders. For hundreds of years, this was the simple truth of space travel. Admiral Ta stood on the command deck of the border station, his tall frame perfectly still as he watched the main display. The station hung in the darkness between stars, a massive structure of gleaming metal and blinking lights. From here, his teams watched over a vast section of space, making sure no unauthorized ships entered Karathi territory. "Another quiet shift," said Officer Minho, his fingers moving across the control panel. "Border traffic is normal. All ships are following approved routes." Ta nodded, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Good. The Council expects." A small light flashed on the main screen. Then it disappeared. "What was that?" Tai asked, moving closer to the display. Minho frowned. "Just interference, Admiral. Happens sometimes with the radiation from the nearby nebula." "Run a diagnostic anyway," Tai ordered. Something didn't feel right. Officer Minho tapped several commands into his console. Systems are functioning at optimal levels. No errors detected. Tai was about to turn away when the light appeared again. This time, it stayed visible for 3 seconds before vanishing, long enough for the system to register it as an object. "That's not interference," Ta said, his voice hardening. "That's a ship." "Impossible," said Minho. "Our sensors would have detected its approach long before it got this close. And look at the position data. It's a full light hour closer than the first reading." "Something is out there," Tai insisted, "and it's moving toward us." He straightened his uniform and gave the order. "Full scan protocols. I want every array focused on grid sector 7 Delta." The command center hummed with activity as operators adjusted their equipment. The Karathi prided themselves on their technology. Their sensor arrays could detect a small shuttle from 5 light-years away. Nothing could hide from them, or so they believed. "Still nothing on continuous scan," reported Senior Technician Jinwoo. "If there's a ship out there, it's using technology we've never seen before." "Keep scanning," Tai ordered. "Expand the search radius. Check for any unusual energy signatures." 2 hours passed with no further signs of the mysterious vessel. The crew grew restless, some wondering if their admiral was chasing shadows. Then, just as Tai was considering ending the search, all sensors flashed with alerts. "Contact," shouted Jinwoo. "Definite ship signature, less than half a light hour away." The main screen displayed a blurry image of a vessel unlike any in Karathi records. It was sleek and dark, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Before they could get a better scan, it vanished again. "How is this possible?" Ta demanded. "No cloaking technology can evade our sensors completely." Chief Science Officer Sunny approached the command platform. "Admiral, I believe we're dealing with something new. The readings suggest this ship isn't fully in our space-time continuum." "Explain," Tai ordered. "It appears to be shifting between phase states, partially here, partially elsewhere. Our sensors can only detect it when it's more solid than not." Sunny's eyes shone with professional curiosity. "This is beyond theoretical. This is technology we've only dreamed about." Tai's mandibles clicked with agitation. This was more than a security breach. It was a direct challenge to Karathi technological superiority. For centuries, they had ruled because no one could match their capabilities. Now, someone had not only matched them, but potentially surpassed them. "Alert all patrol ships," Ta commanded. "I want them converging on the last known position, and get me a direct line to the High Council." The message to the Council was brief but urgent. An unknown vessel with impossible technology had breached their borders and was moving deeper into Karathi space. The response came quickly: "Capture this vessel at all costs. The technology must be secured." As patrol ships raced to intercept, the mysterious vessel appeared again, this time close enough for a more detailed scan. The image revealed smooth lines and an elegant design that spoke of advanced engineering. It was smaller than most interstellar craft, built for speed rather than power. "We're getting some readings on the crew," Jinwoo reported with surprise. "They appear to be human." "Human," Tae repeated, his voice rising. "That's not possible. Human ships are primitive compared to ours." Yet the evidence was clear. Somehow, humans, a species the Kerethi had dismissed as barely spaceworthy, had developed technology that could slip past the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy. On the bridge of the Earth vessel Shadowdancer*, Commander Jiwoo watched the Kerethi response with a grim smile. "They've spotted us," she told her crew. "Right on schedule." Her first officer, Lieutenant Hyun, looked nervous. "The quantum displacement drive is running hot. We can't stay phased for much longer." "We don't need to," Jiwoo replied. "We just need to stay ahead of them long enough to complete our mission." She turned to her navigation officer. "Plot a course for the Resistance rendezvous point. Let's show the Kerethi what this ship can really do." Back on the border station, Admiral Ta watched as the human vessel flickered in and out of sensor range, always staying just ahead of the pursuing Kerethi ships. Its movements were deliberate, taunting almost. "They're not just running," he realized. "They're testing us, learning our response patterns." The human ship was making a mockery of the Kerethi defense grid. Every time they almost had a lock on it, the vessel would shift phases, becoming ghost-like before reappearing somewhere else. The Shadowdancer slipped through the darkness of space like a knife through water. Commander Jiwoo watched the stars streak past on the main view screen, each one blurring as the quantum displacement drive bent reality around the ship. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform bore the simple patch of Earth's expeditionary force, a rising sun over a blue planet. "Displacement at 87%, Commander," reported Officer Minje from his station. His fingers danced across the glowing controls, making small adjustments to keep the experimental drive stable. "The Kerethi sensors are trying to lock onto us, but they can't hold us for more than a few seconds." Jiwoo nodded, a small smile playing at the corner of her lips. For decades, the Kerethi Dominion had oppressed dozens of species across this sector of space. Their technological edge, especially their sensor networks, had made resistance nearly impossible. Until now. "How's the drive temperature?" she asked. Minji's face tightened. "Running hot. We're pushing it harder than the test runs. We'll need to stabilize in normal space soon, or we risk molecular drift." The Shadowdancer wasn't just fast. It existed partially outside normal spacetime. The quantum displacement drive shifted the ship slightly out of phase with reality, making it nearly impossible to detect or track. But the technology was new and dangerous. If they stayed displaced too long, the very atoms of the ship might begin to lose cohesion. "Understood," Jiwoo said calmly. "Find us somewhere quiet to rematerialize fully, preferably away from Kerethi patrol routes." Lieutenant Hyun at the navigation station spoke up. "There's an asteroid field in Sector 9 Gamma. Dense enough to provide cover, but not so thick we can't maneuver." "Plot a course," Jiwoo ordered, "but stay displaced until we're deep inside the field." As the ship altered course, Jiwoo turned to look at the secure container strapped to the wall of the bridge. Inside was the intelligence package they had been sent to deliver, information that could change the course of the rebellion against Kerethi rule. Star charts showing secret Kerethi bases, technical readouts of their newest weapons, and most importantly, the access codes to their main communication network. The Shadowdancer shuddered slightly as it passed through a gravity wave. The lights flickered, and several warning lights flashed on the main console. "Displacement drive is approaching critical," Minji warned, his voice tense. "We need to drop to normal space within 10 minutes. Officer Suman at the sensor station suddenly straightened. "Commander, Kerethi vessels detected, 6 of them, in a search pattern. They're following our quantum wake." Jiwoo frowned. "The Kerethi shouldn't have been able to track them at all." "Explain." They can't see us directly, Suman said, but they're detecting the disturbances we leave in spacetime, like following footprints in the sand. The main screen shifted to show the positions of the Karathi ships. They were spreading out in a hunting formation, closing in on the asteroid field they have been heading for. They'd guessed our destination, Ju realized. Change course. Take us deeper into Karathi space. Commander, Han questioned, looking up from his station. The drive won't last that long. It doesn't need to, Ju replied. They expect us to run for the border or hide. They won't expect us to head straight toward their core systems. The Shadowdancer banked sharply, altering course away from the asteroid field and toward the heart of Karathi territory. As they moved, the ship flickered in and out of normal space, becoming momentarily visible to sensors before disappearing again. On the bridge of the Karathi command ship, Admiral Ta watched the readings with growing frustration. The human vessel was like nothing he had ever encountered. There one moment, gone the next. They've changed course, reported Officer Doyan. They're heading toward the inner systems. Tay's 4 eyes narrowed. Why would they do that? The drive signature suggests they're having stability issues. They should be looking for a place to hide and make repairs. Perhaps they're more desperate than we thought, suggested Chief Science Officer Sunny. Or perhaps it's a tactic we don't understand. Whatever they're planning, we cannot let them succeed, Ta said firmly. This technology in human hands threatens everything we've built. Divert 3 ships to continue following their trail. The rest will spread out to cover possible emergence points. Back aboard the Shadowdancer, the situation was growing tense. The quantum displacement drive was emitting a high-pitched whine that filled the bridge, and the temperature in the engine room had risen to dangerous levels. 5 minutes until forced rematerialization, Minji reported. We need somewhere to hide, Commander. Ju studied the star chart displayed on her personal screen. They were approaching a densely populated region of Karathi space with multiple planets and stations. Hiding would be difficult, unless they could find somewhere the Karathi wouldn't think to look. There, she said, pointing to a massive gas giant on the display. Taiyang 7. Heavy radiation, strong magnetic fields, perfect for masking our signature once we drop the displacement. The atmosphere will be rough on our systems, Hyun warned. Better than being captured by the Karathi, Ju countered. Set course, maximum speed. The Shadowdancer surged forward, pushing the displacement drive to its limit. Warning lights flashed across every console, and the ship's frame groaned under the strain of existing between states of reality. Karathi vessels adjusting course, Suman reported. They've guessed our destination. They'll be too late, Ju said confidently. We'll be inside the gas giant's atmosphere before they can establish a proper search pattern. The massive planet grew larger on the main screen, a swirling giant of purple and blue clouds, with storms larger than Earth raging across its surface. Lightning bolts the size of continents flashed in its upper atmosphere. Prepare for atmospheric entry, Ju ordered, and get ready to cut the displacement drive the moment we're inside the cloud layers. The crew braced themselves as the ship plunged toward the massive planet. At the last possible moment, as the outer atmospheric layers began to brush against the hull, Minji deactivated the quantum displacement drive. The Shadowdancer shuddered violently as it fully materialized in normal space, now buffeted by the powerful winds of the gas giant's upper atmosphere. The ship's systems struggled to adjust to the sudden pressure and radiation. Descent trajectory stable, Hyun reported, taking us deeper into the cloud layers. Outside, massive clouds of gas swirled around the ship, hiding it from any watching eyes. The radiation and magnetic interference from the planet would make it nearly impossible for the Karathi sensors to pick them out against the background chaos of the gas giant. Power down all non-essential systems, Ju ordered. Minimal life support only. Let's make ourselves as invisible as possible while the drive cools down. As the ship's lights dimmed and the hum of its systems quieted, Ju looked at the faces of her crew. They were tired but determined. They had accomplished something no one had thought possible. They had breached the legendary Karathi sensor net and penetrated deep into enemy territory. "Rest while you can," she told them softly. "Our mission is just beginning." Outside the viewport, the swirling clouds of the gas giant concealed the small human ship, while above them, Karathi vessels circled in growing confusion, their perfect sensors defeated for the first time in centuries by human ingenuity and daring. Admiral Ta paced the bridge of his command ship, hands clasped tightly behind his back. Through the large viewing window, the gas giant Taiyang 7 loomed large, a swirling mass of purple and blue clouds. Somewhere within that atmospheric chaos, the human ship was hiding. "Status report," he demanded. Officer Do-Yun looked up from his station. "We have 6 ships in high orbit around the planet. Admiral, sensors are at maximum power, but the radiation and magnetic fields are making detailed scans impossible." Tay's mandibles clicked in frustration. For the first time in his long career, he faced an enemy he couldn't track with certainty. The humans had been clever, too clever. Their ship could somehow shift partially out of normal space, and now they were using a gas giant's natural interference to compound the problem. "The Council is demanding answers," Ta said. "They want to know how this technology was developed without our knowledge." Chief Science Officer Sun-hee approached with a datapad. "I have been analyzing what little data we gathered when the ship briefly appeared on our sensors. The technology is remarkable. They've developed a method of quantum displacement that we only theorized about." "How does it work?" Tai asked. "In simple terms, they're shifting their ship partially out of phase with normal spacetime. Not quite a parallel dimension, but adjacent to our reality. Our sensors are designed to detect objects fully in our dimension, which is why they can only spot the human ship when it becomes more solid." Tai stopped pacing. "Can we adapt our sensors to detect them?" "Given time, perhaps," Sun-hee said. "But right now, our best option is to track the quantum wake they leave behind. Even when phased, they disturb spacetime in detectable ways." Ta nodded and turned to his tactical officer. "Deploy sensor drones into the upper atmosphere. Program them to look for quantum disturbances, not conventional ship signatures. Deep within the clouds of..." "If I were them," he mused aloud, "hiding in a gas giant with a damaged ship, where would I go?" He stared at the atmospheric patterns displayed on the main screen, focusing on the massive storm systems that raged across the planet's surface. "The Preston Storm," he said suddenly, pointing to a massive swirling vortex on the planet's far side. "It's the largest electromagnetic disturbance on the planet, perfect for masking a quantum signature." "But sir," Do-Yun objected, "no ship would deliberately enter such a storm. The wind speeds would tear apart most vessels." "This isn't most vessels," Tay replied. "This is a ship built to bend the laws of physics, redirect half the drones to the storm perimeter." Now, inside the gas giant's atmosphere, a shadow dancer fought against increasingly powerful winds. The hull creaked and groaned as atmospheric pressure battered it from all sides. Inside, the crew was strapped into their stations, enduring the violent shaking. "Storm boundary in 3 minutes," Hyun called out above the noise. "Wind speeds increasing." Ju-woo gripped her command chair tightly. "Status of the quantum drive." Minji's voice came through the comm system. "Cooling process is stable, but these atmospheric conditions are slowing the crystal reformation." A sudden alert sounded from the sensor station. Suman's face paled as she read the display. "Commander, Karathi drones approaching from behind us. They'd guessed our destination." Ju-woo cursed under her breath. "Time to intercept. At our current speed, 10 minutes. But once we enter the storm, they may lose us again." "If we survive the entry," Hun muttered. The ship lurched violently as a powerful gust caught it from the side. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as structural integrity alarms triggered. "We don't have a choice," Ju-woo said firmly. "Increased thruster power. Get us into that storm before those drones reach us. The Shadow Dancer's engines flared brighter as it pushed forward toward the massive storm system. Ahead, lightning bolts larger than cities flashed through swirling clouds, and winds powerful enough to flatten mountains created a wall of turbulence. On the Karathi command ship, Admiral Todd watched with growing excitement as the sensor drones closed in on their target. "Quantum wake detected," announced the drone operator. "Definite signature, heading toward the Preston storm." "I knew it," Ta said, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. "Alert all ships. Move to positions around the storm. When they emerge, I want every possible exit covered." Sun Hai looked concerned. "Admiral, if they enter the storm, we may lose track of them again." "It doesn't matter," Tay replied confidently. "Their ship is damaged. They have to come out eventually, and when they do, we'll be waiting. This hunt is almost over." The Shadow Dancer plunged into the outer edges of the massive storm. Immediately, the ship was caught in winds of incredible force, tossing it about like a leaf. The crew held on desperately as systems flickered and alarms blared throughout the vessel. "Hull integrity at 82%, called out Minje from engineering. "We can't take this punishment for long." Through the viewing port, Juwu could see nothing but swirling gases and flashes of giant lightning. They were committed now, deep in enemy territory, hiding in one of the most dangerous environments in the system, with the entire Karathi fleet hunting them. "Find us a stable pocket within the storm," she ordered Hyun. "Somewhere we can make repairs." As the Shadow Dancer disappeared into the heart of the raging tempest, Admiral Tai positioned his fleet around the enormous storm system. The hunt had become a waiting game. No matter how clever the humans were, they would have to emerge eventually. And when they did, the Karathi would be ready. Within the heart of the Preston storm, the Shadow Dancer found a relatively calm pocket, an eye within the massive tempest. Lightning still flashed around them, and the winds at the edge of this pocket were still fierce, but here at least, the ship could remain somewhat stable. Commander Juwu floated through the corridors of the ship, making her way to engineering. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. The hull creaked and groaned as pressure waves from the storm washed over it. Crew members worked quickly at their stations, their faces showing determination despite their situation. In engineering, Minjae had opened the housing of the quantum displacement drive. The inner workings of the revolutionary device were exposed, a complex arrangement of crystals and field generators that allowed the ship to shift partially out of normal spacetime. Several of the crystals had hairline cracks running through them. "How bad is it?" Juwu asked as she steadied herself against a bulkhead. Minja looked up, his face streaked with sweat and lubricant. "Better than I expected, worse than I hoped. The main alignment crystal is intact, but 3 of the stabilizers are damaged. I've jury-rigged a bypass system, but we won't be able to maintain displacement for more than 30 minutes at a time. Is that enough to get past the Karathi fleet? Maybe. If we're lucky and they're spread thin." Juwu shook her head. "They won't be. Admiral Tai is too smart for that. He'll have ships positioned all around this storm, waiting for us to emerge." The ship shuddered as another pressure wave hit it. An alarm sounded briefly before someone silenced it. "Hull integrity is dropping," Minji warned. "We can't stay in this storm much longer either." Juwu stared at the damaged drive, her mind racing. They were trapped between 2 impossible options: stay in the storm and be torn apart, or leave and be captured. Neither was acceptable. "What if we don't try to run or hide?" she said suddenly. Minja looked confused. "Commander, we've been thinking defensively, running, hiding. That's what the Karathi expect. What if we attack instead?" "Attack? With what? We're not a warship." Juwu smiled. "No, but we have something better. We have a ship that can partially exist outside normal space." She pushed herself toward a nearby console and pulled up the schematics of a standard Karathi warship. Their shields are designed to stop physical objects and energy weapons. But what about something that's partially phased? Something that could pass through their shields as if they weren't there. Understanding dawned on Minji's face. You want to use the displacement drive to bypass their defenses. Exactly. We phase just enough to slip through their shields, then rematerialize inside their defensive perimeter. That's never been attempted, Minji said, his eyes wide. The calculations would need to be perfect. Phase too much, and we might drift right through their ship entirely. Phase too little, and we'll crash into their shields. Can you do it? Minji was quiet for a moment, running the calculations in his head. Finally, he nodded. I think so, but we'd need a distraction, something to keep their attention while we make our approach. Jiwoo's smile widened. I think I have just the thing. Back on the bridge, she gathered her senior officers. Here's the plan, she began. We're going to split our mission. The main ship will remain here in the Storm Eye with a skeleton crew. Lieutenant Hyun will take our long-range shuttle and make a run for it, using the storm's electromagnetic interference as cover. The Karathi will chase the shuttle, Officer Suman said, understanding the strategy. Exactly. While they're distracted, we'll use the displacement drive to approach their command ship directly. We'll phase through their shields, rematerialize long enough to deliver our intelligence package to the resistance contact on board, then phase out again before they can react. There's a resistance agent on the Karathi command ship, Hyun asked, surprised. Jiwoo nodded. Senior Communications Officer Jin. He's been feeding information to the resistance for years. He'll know what to do with our intelligence package. This is incredibly risky, Suman warned. If the timing is off by even a few seconds, then we fail, and the Karathi maintain their grip on this sector for another 100 years. Jiwoo said firmly, I'm not willing to accept that outcome. Are you? The officers exchanged looks. Then one by one, they nodded their agreement. Good, Jiwoo said. Hyun, prepare the shuttle. Make it as noisy as possible when you leave. Full power, no stealth. I want every Karathi sensor operator looking at you. As the crew prepared for their desperate gambit, Admiral Ta maintained his vigil around the massive storm. His fleet of 6 warships was positioned at equal intervals, covering every possible exit vector. Sensor drones continued to probe the storm, but the electromagnetic interference made detailed scans impossible. Any change? He asked for what felt like the 100th time. Nothing yet, Admiral, replied Do-Yun. The storm is actually growing in intensity. If they're still in there, they're in serious danger. Ta frowned. The humans were resourceful. He didn't believe for a moment that they were simply hiding and hoping for the best. They were planning something. Increase drone coverage, he ordered. I want. Contact, shouted the sensor operator. Small vessel emerging from the southern edge of the storm. High speed. The main screen shifted to show a small shuttle bursting from the storm clouds, engines blazing at full power as it accelerated away from the gas giant. It's too small to be their main ship, Sun Hai observed. A diversion. Or they've abandoned their vessel and are trying to escape in a shuttle, Tai countered. Either way, we can't let them get away. Vessels 3 and 4 pursue and capture that shuttle. The rest maintain position. 2 Karathi warships broke formation, their powerful engines flaring as they gave chase to the small human craft. The shuttle was fast, but it couldn't outrun Karathi ships in open space. What no one on the Karathi command ship noticed was the slight ripple in space near the hull of their own vessel, a distortion so subtle that even their advanced sensors missed it. The Shadow Dancer, operating in a partial phase state, was approaching directly, invisible to conventional detection. On the bridge of the crippled human ship, Commander Jiwoo watched the tactical display with intense concentration. Status of the drive. Phase coherence at 89%. Minji reported from engineering. We're stable, but I don't know for how long. The damage is forcing us to use more power than normal. Distance to target. 500 meters and closing. Their shields are directly ahead. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Begin final approach. Adjust phase harmonics to match their shield frequency. The shadowed insert drifted toward the massive Karathi warship, its form becoming even more ghost-like as it approached the energy barrier that protected the alien vessel. For a moment, it seemed to hesitate at the shield boundary, then slipped through as if the powerful defense system wasn't even there. "We're inside their shields," Suman reported, her voice hushed with awe. "Matching course with their hull. Distance 100 meters and closing. Take us alongside their communications array," Ju ordered. "Prepare the data package for transmission." The human ship glided alongside the much larger Karathi vessel, completely undetected. As they neared the communications section, Mindy's voice came urgently over the comm. "Commander, the drive is destabilizing. We can't maintain this phase state for more than 2 minutes." "That's all we need," Ju replied calmly. "Prepare to transmit on my mark." As the shadowed insert positioned itself perfectly, Ju gave the order that would change the balance of power in this sector forever. "Transmit now." The coded transmission burst from the shadowed insert lasted just 3 seconds, barely a blip in the constant communications traffic of the massive Karathi command ship. To most observers, it would have appeared as nothing more than background noise. But for Senior Communications Officer Jin, working quietly at his station on the main bridge, it was the signal he had been waiting for. Jin had served the Karathi fleet for 20 years. On the outside, he was a model officer, efficient, loyal, respected. No one, not even Admiral Tay, suspected that he had been working with the Resistance for the past 5 years, driven by the cruelty he had witnessed as the Dominion expanded its control across the stars. When the special frequency alert flashed on his private screen, Jin casually adjusted his controls, routing the incoming data package through a series of filters that would hide it from the main system. The intelligence from Earth would be safe, varied in encrypted channels only Resistance members could access. Outside the Karathi vessel, the shadowed insert was struggling. The quantum displacement drive emitted a high-pitched whine that filled the ship, and warning lights flashed across every console. "Transmission complete," Officer Suman confirmed. "The package has been delivered." Commander Juwu nodded, relief washing over her. "Begin phase shift. Get us out of here." "The drive is overheating," Minjae warned over the comm. "We need more time to stabilize." "We don't have time," Juwu replied firmly. "Full power to the drive. Phase shift now." The shadowed insert's form began to shimmer as it started to shift out of normal space again. But this time, the process wasn't smooth. The damaged crystals in the drive core flared with unstable energy, causing the ship to flicker in and out of visibility. On the bridge of the Karathi command ship, a junior sensor operator suddenly straightened in his chair. "Admiral, unknown contact. It's right beside us." Admiral Ta spun around. "What? Where?" The main screen shifted to show the shadowed insert, now partially visible as its phase state fluctuated. The human ship was so close they could see the Earth Expeditionary Force emblem painted on its hull. "Impossible," Ta hissed. "They're inside our shields. Target them immediately." "Weapons locked," the tactical officer reported. "Firing." Energy beams lanced out from the Karathi vessel, but most passed harmlessly through the shadowed insert as it shifted in and out of phase. One beam, however, struck the ship's engine section during a moment of solidity, sending a shower of sparks and debris into space. Inside the human ship, the bridge shook violently. Direct hit to the secondary power coupling. Minja shouted, "The drive is failing." Juwu gripped her command chair. "Put everything we have left into one final phase jump. Get us away from their weapons range." The shadowed insert's engines flared brightly as it surged forward, its form becoming increasingly transparent. For a moment, it seemed to stretch and distort, as if reality itself was struggling to maintain its grip on the vessel. Then, with a flash of quantum energy, the ship disappeared completely. Admiral Ta slammed his fist against his console. "Find them." "They're gone, sir," the sensor operator reported. "No trace on any scanner." "That's not possible. Nothing can simply vanish." Chief Science Officer Sunny approached cautiously. It appears they've fully shifted out of our phase of reality, Admiral. They've pushed their technology beyond what we thought possible. Tay turned to Jin at the communication station. Did you detect any transmissions while they were next to our ship? Jin kept his face carefully neutral. Nothing unusual, Admiral. Just standard background noise. The Admiral studied his officer for a long moment, then turned away. Alert all ships. I want every corner of this system searched. They have to rematerialize somewhere. But the shadow dancer was already far away. The damaged drive had carried them several light minutes from the Karathi fleet before failing completely. Now the ship drifted in the shadow of a small moon, running on emergency power only. The bridge was dark, lit only by emergency lighting and the glow of essential systems. Juwu moved among her crew, checking on the injured and offering words of encouragement. Status report, she asked quietly when she reached Minja at the engineering station. He looked up, his face streaked with soot and sweat. The displacement drive is completely burned out. We pushed it beyond its design limits. We're lucky the whole ship didn't come apart at the atomic level. Can it be repaired? Minja shook his head. Not with what we have on board. We'd need a full space dock facility. Juwu nodded slowly. Then we proceed with the emergency extraction plan. Send the signal to the resistance cell on the fourth moon. We'll need their help to get home. As Suman prepared the coded message, Juwu gazed out at the stars through the viewport. They had accomplished their mission. The intelligence package had been delivered. Soon, the Resistance would have access to the Karathi communication network, allowing them to coordinate their efforts across the sector. The information about secret bases and weapons facilities would give them targets that the Dominion could not afford to lose. The balance of power was about to shift dramatically. 3 days later, Admiral Ta stood before the Karathi High Council, mandibles lowered in the position of formal respect. The council chamber was a vast hall of polished black stone, with 7 elevated seats for the counselors who ruled the Dominion. You let them escape, said the first counselor, her voice cold with disappointment.